So now we'll scan the images and we'll push them to the registry. For that, we need to have Docker Hub or ECR. I'll take one instance. The Ubuntu I have taken. I think yesterday PPK file itself I have already. This is the PPK file. I'll change the font size. So for Dockerfile and to push it, we no need of Docker Compose or Swarm mode. Normal Docker host is enough. So docker.io I'm installing. Now some compose is the repo. In that we have all the Docker files and compose files we have. So in this, which one you want to take it? Go to that repo. I'll go for maybe Nginx. The Golang and so in this we may have the backend or maybe proxy. In the backend, they have one Docker file. And then Alpine Builder. I'll try to for Node.js one. Say here we have the Docker file. I'm going to build it. Docker. So for this, you need to add the Docker user also. I didn't add it. Hence, I'm using sudo Docker build -t. So instead of Nginx, I'm going to use my Nginx 1.1, then dot. Now we got this image. So now we need to go to Docker Hub, need to push to Docker Hub. So I need to log into the Docker Hub. So already I have signed up. @123 using this password. I have logged into this Docker Hub. So now I'm going to create one repo. So repo name I'm going to give my Nginx app. And we can create either a public repo or private repo. Can you tell me the difference between public repo and private repo? Public, anyone can download. Private is even for pulling the image also, they need the login. Even to pull the image also, they need the login. Okay. For public, to push the image, you need the login. For pull, we no need. For pulling the image, we no need of the login. Okay. Then create it. So now, locally, what is the name of the image we have? So locally, what is the name of the image we have? So if I go for Docker images or sudo Docker images, I have my Nginx 1.1. Okay, my Nginx 1.1. Okay, so when I try to push it, okay, so I need to log into my Docker here. Okay, so for that I'm using one command called as Docker login. Docker login. So here also better to give sudo Docker login. And what is the username here is my username is Cloudsoft HYD. Cloudsoft HYD, and the password is Azure @123, and I'm able to log into succeeded. Okay, if I use that sudo Docker push, so sudo Docker push my Nginx :1.1. Okay, so now that my Nginx 1.1 is not ours. So what is our repo name is okay, so Cloudsoft HYD / my Nginx app : tag name. But what is the locally we have the image? So locally, what is the image we have? So locally, the name of the image we have is my Nginx : 1.1 we have. So now here what we need to do is this need to be renamed by using the command docker tag. So my Nginx : 1.1 need to replace to this name. Okay. So here instead of using the tag name, if I want, I can give the my. Okay. So like this, I'm going to give. Okay, so then what is going to happen? Try to understand. Sudo Docker images. Nginx is downloaded 1.2.21.6 is the image we have used, but now it's downloaded my Nginx 1.1. So now if I tag it using this command, the my Nginx 1.1 is tagging with another tag also. So what is the new tag we are getting here? So what is the new tag we are getting?
Cloudsoft HYD.
Cloudsoft HYD, my Nginx
Nginx.
1.1. Okay, so now I'll try to check it. What are the images we have here? So now total we have three images. We can't push my Nginx 1.1. Our repo compatible tag, if you convert, then only we can push it. Otherwise, we can't push it. Otherwise, we can't push it. Okay, so now what is the command we need to use is docker push or maybe sudo docker push. So what is the name of that is Cloudsoft HYD and tag we have given is 1.1. If I don't give this tag, what is going to try is it tries with the latest and latest we don't have locally. Okay, that is the reason I'm going to give 1.1 is the tag. 1.1 is the tag we got. Then it tries to push it. So now it pushed to the Docker Hub. If you go to this repo, here go to tags or refresh once. So now here we got 1.1 tag, 1.1 tag. Now again, if I build it, maybe I may get 1.2. I may get it. Now the same one I'm going to change to 1.2. Again, I'm going to push it to. Now, but normally when we got a new code, again we are going to build our Docker file with the new tag, and that is we are trying to push to. That is we are trying to push with the new tag version. We are trying to push it. But already that same, there are no changes or no layers have been added, because if I add more like run commands or copy commands or add commands, then more layers would be added to your Docker file. So now here we may get a tag is 1.2, but there is no major changes between 1.1 and 1.2. So here 1.1 and 1.2, how many pulled and the size is 54.11 MB we have. And here if you go to the settings, okay, so now we can do the like a scout analysis also. So vulnerability scanning, all those also we can enable, or static, okay, scanning also we can enable. For this we need to purchase it. Okay, so that means that feature they're giving for like upgrade to the higher version. Then as of now we are using the free version, right? So that is the reason we are not getting. But so here this option I'm going to enable. So then if you upgrade to the higher version, then we'll get more features. In the real time, we may have those features have been there. So even we can use Trivi is there. Try to scan. Most of the companies are using other scanning kind of tools like Trivi or maybe Anchor. So these kind of tools also we can install on top of your Docker. So we'll try to scan those images using Trivi or Anchor also. Otherwise, Docker Scout also. So previously Docker scan is one command, but now they bring it to Docker Scout. So now go to Scout dashboard. We need the organization, all those. But here we don't have the organization, that we have the image itself. But for this we need to upgrade our Docker Hub also. The Docker Scout, and it is going to give all the images and how many packages we have, and how many like vulnerabilities or these are the common vulnerabilities kind of things. How many 10 vulnerabilities have been founded. So like this here, we are going to get all these information. Okay. But we are getting the information itself. We are not going to stop it. Say in the pipeline, we are going to use the Trivia or Anchor kind of tools for this assessment also. For this assessment, we are going to do this. So as of now, we push it to which Docker Hub we have used, which is cloud base and a Docker base we have used. Instead of this, like we can push it. ECR also. What is the meaning of ECR? It's Elastic Container Registry. That means we are not using Docker Hub in our project Assume. We are using the AWS itself. Then the AWS registry is ECR. ECR stands for Elastic Container Registry. Elastic Container Registry. If you go for Elastic Container Registry, then here in the just like Docker Hub, we are going to create a registry, either public or private. We can create. Okay, anything is fine. Then here either private registry we can create or public, but there only one private is suggested. So then I'm going to give here my voting app. My voting app. So that should be available. But instead of Cloudsoft HYD, now we need to tag based on this name. Previous tag is not allowed. Then we can do the scan on push also, but they are going to like depreciated. So going forward, as of now, we are enable the scan and push, but going forward, they're disabling, and we can enable the advanced settings also once this repo has been created. So now I'm going to create a repo. So now what we need to do is we need to push our images to. So we need to push our images to not to Docker Hub. Okay, we need to push to. So here, whatever the push commands we have, all these we are getting. But as we are going to use AWS, Docker login is not enough. We need to log in using AWS CLI with our credentials. Later, we need to run this command. Okay. So before what I'll do is for the local user, I'll add it to the group. Ubuntu, I'll restart the session. Now what we need to do is I need to install AWS CLI. AWS CLI through Snap also you can install if you want. Then we need to configure our AWS credentials. So before that, we need to get those security credentials. So the security credentials, I'm going to use it. So as of now, only one is there. I can create one more security credentials. For root user, it's not recommended to give. That is one warning it is giving. But okay, for practice purpose, it's fine. Then here, this is your access key. And we are going to get the secret key. So now I'm going to configure the AWS. AWS configure. So that access key I'm going to enter. secret key, then region, output format, wherever you want, you can choose it. Okay, so but ECR also is a region specific feature itself. And instead of login, in the push command, they have given this AWS ECR get login password. And here this region is US East to 2 they have. I'll rename to US East to 2 itself, this also. So access key I'm not changing, only region name I'm changing. Okay, then using this AWS ECR get hyphen login hyphen password region and Docker login, using this we are going to connect. But normally in the real time, if it is an IAM user, we need to give the permissions also to, we need to give the permissions to that user to the ECR also. We need that, but as of now we are logging as uh, uh, admin user, or we are not giving any permissions. Okay, so now after CLI and all those have been configured, I'll run this command to login. So this is almost equivalent to Docker login kind of command, but for ECR, we need to do this. So how login has been succeeded, and locally, what is the image? Image we have is clouds. My Nginx 1.1 is there. This is a Docker Hub compatible tag. That is not enough here. Then in the push command itself, they have given this name. Okay, my voting app, but here we don't have the latest. So locally, what is the tag we have instead of latest? What is the tag we have? So 1.1 we have, and this is the compatible name. Sorry, locally we don't have my Nginx 1.1. We need to give. My Nginx 1.1. Okay, so now if I go for this Docker images, I'll get that image also. So now this push command we can use and we can push it. Or from there also we can copy that. So in the first we have entered one command, right? Say here, if you don't enter that like a Docker user, then give sudo before this, but not recommended there itself. Otherwise, it may throw an error. I hope you understand, right? I have added the Docker user to that to that group, right? If I don't add it before this AWS ECR, don't give sudo. Why I'm not giving at the AWS ECR? Why I'm not giving sudo there? Because I have configured the AWS like a credentials to AWS credentials to local Ubuntu user I have configured. Is it fine? Are you able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then we need to tag it and need to push it. Say here what are the different options you have and whether the tag is came or not, we'll check once. So here if I refresh it, that all the images will come here. So here okay, we given the latest because we give the tag. That is the reason here latest came. So if I go to this, I'll get the scanning results also. So now here we have some of the vulnerabilities we have. So critical, high, because those are the very older one, right? 2 years old images. Definitely vulnerabilities would be there. We need to closely work with the developers, and this critical at least will need to try to resolve them. So these are all the common vulnerabilities we have in our image. Okay, so try to explore some of the vulnerabilities also, because at the repo itself I have enabled those vulnerability settings. Okay, but before pushing this itself locally, we need to do it. For that, maybe we may need to use a Trivy or Anchor kind of tools. So try to explore those kind of tools also. Trivy or Anchor kind of tools we need to integrate. Say instead of this, locally we can have Docker trusted registry also. So locally also we can have a DTR. What is the difference? So now we are using either Docker Hub also is a cloud based only, or we can use like ECR, which is AWS one. But how it DTR is different? DTR is in our office, we are going to keep the registry. What is the advantage? Can you tell me the advantages? So if the internet bandwidth is a constraint, then better to go for local DTR. Okay, say when we are going for this, if the internet is a constraint for us, that means bandwidth, there are some thousands of images we are pushing, then better to go for
DTR.
DTR, Docker Trusted Registry. That means on one server we need to install DTR. That's again an enterprise feature. So you can tell we are using ECR itself and we are using the private repo in that. And whenever we want this image need to be running, so what we need to take is that image complete this repo. So we need to use while running. Maybe if you want to pull that Docker pull, that complete path of the repo we need to give. If the same thing from Docker Hub is Docker pull Cloudsoft HYD slash that my voting app colon maybe 1.2 if you have 1.2 or latest. Okay, so based on your repository, that prefix is going to change. So based on your repository, that prefix is going to change for us. Accordingly, we are going to modify. Okay, sure. Any doubts? So try to finish all this. Okay, say scout and all this also try to finish. Yeah, any doubts on this? So in the real time, whether you use Docker for the deployment or not, but in order to create the images, okay, say in order to scan them and pushing them is mandatory. Okay, if you may use for deployment, you may use Kubernetes, but from the Docker wise, these are all the mandatory things for all your microservices. We need to write down the Docker file. Okay, so we need to scan it and need to push to registry. So these all the steps are mandatory for us. Okay, any doubts on this? Any doubts? Okay, so now all these days we have used the Docker file, right? So in the Docker file, all these days we kept one from image. But if we keep only one from image, we are adding more layers to Docker image. Or in order to reduce it, we need to use two Docker files. Two Docker files we need to use, one for build, one for deployment. Okay, that is also again a lot of manual process is there. The solution for this, okay, if we add more layers, what is the problem we are getting? if you add more layers, what is the challenge or what is the problem we are getting? If you add more layers, the size of the Docker file is the bigger one. The size of the Docker file is the bigger one. In order to reduce that one, what is the solution for all these is, today in the real time, we are going to use multi-stage Docker files. Multi-stage Docker files. Okay. So what is the purpose of the multi-stage Docker files is, we have the two stages or two from images mostly in the multi-stage Docker file. One is for the build stage we are going to use, and the second one is for the staging or maybe for the deployment we are going to use one more. So with this, what is the advantage is, we no need to use the two Docker files, for one for build and one for deployment, and we are not going to use one Docker file with the largest number of steps, where it add more layers also. Okay, so what is the solution with this? What is the solution? What is the advantage? That the Docker size is going to be reduced. The Docker volume size is going to be reduced. So that is the purpose we are going to use multi-stage Docker files. And how many Docker like from images we will have? How many from images we
Two
will
from
have in the
images, sir.
two from
Two or more.
images? Okay, so yeah, two or more, but mostly we will have the two from images. We are going to keep it. And what is the main advantage of the multi-stage Docker files?
It will reduce the size.
Yeah, so the main advantage of the like multi-stage Docker file is, so what is the advantage you are going to get if the size of the Docker image is less? Okay, if that it pulls very fastly, it is start up very fastly, execute very fastly, container size is very small, then more resources can be reduced to run those. Okay, so then the size of the image is also one of the constraint, and the security also, all the dependencies, all those we are not keeping in our image. Final, we are going to take a clean one more image on that we are going to run it. Okay, so then that reduce the attack on the surface of the Docker image also. That all we have done at one other layer. Okay, so then it's going to multi-stage optimize the build also. Intermediate builds, all those we are not going to keep it, and easy to maintain also. And for Maven, I want to use one build, and after that I want to deploy with another. Say both the from images not mandatory same also. Otherwise, I need to keep more binaries inside my Docker file also. So these all, we have lot of advantages. Okay, we'll take some of the multi-stage Docker files. So always in the Docker file best practices, always the one of the best practices, use the multi-stage Docker files. Use multi-stage Docker files. Say here we are going to use a multi-stage build. Say in this, so from two from images they have used in this. That these all like from the Go language they're taking. So what is this meaning of from equal to 0 means? What is this meaning? So these, if I add all these in this from image itself, if I add all these, what is going to do is, it is going to bring lot of layers inside this. I'm going to reduce these, all the layers have been reduced in this image. From 0 means, what is the output of that previous build? I'm going to copy to this. Those all the layers are not there in this image. Hence, it's becoming a very simple kind of thing. Okay, so how many from images here we have? So not mandatory, both are should be same also. So this is one example. So here, as they given as they didn't give any name, normally we can give the name as build. If I give the name as the build, then here instead of 0, I'll keep this from equal to build. That means from the previous build, or what is the name we have given, from that output take here. Okay, so that means For the first image, we are going to give the name also. For that's how to do, we'll discuss. So now here what we have given from equal to, they have given as the build. Say here from instead of 0, they use build. Okay, and if I use build hyphen target means only first build only it is going to build. Only from the first build we are going to use. Okay, so then these are not, will go for Java, Spring Boot or Node.js like this. Will go for even in your most of the Docker files also they are using multi-stage Docker file itself. So mostly we are going to use Java, Spring Boot, the Java, Spring Boot multi-stage Docker file. We go for this multi-stage Docker file. First, mostly they'll take for Maven. Okay, then they're going to copy all the pom.xml source code. Who will give the source code for us? Developer is going to give it. Then run package all this. Then we are going to get the jar or var. Okay, so this what this will do. Say in the second one, and I don't want to keep the binary Maven binaries and dependencies. All that again will reduce lot of size of the Docker file. Okay, so then what is going to happen here? So what is that highlighted statement is doing? From the previous build, what is the output or jar file we got? That is copied into app target start.jar. Okay, so that is we are copying and exposing 8080. If I keep all these in the single image, what is going to happen? If I keep all these in the single image, what is going to happen? The size of the Docker file is very bigger. The size of the image is going to become very, very bigger one. So that is the reason it's always recommended to use. Always it's recommended to use multi-stage Docker files. Always is recommended to use the multi-stage Docker files we are going to use. Okay, and one of the another best practice is we need to use one file called as Docker ignore file. Okay, say if I using one statement inside my Docker file like copy dot dot, it's going to copy all the files. I may have dot sh dot aws. These all the hidden files, right? Or I may have slash log folders. Say if I have these all the folders, if I use copy dot dot, what is the problem? Some sensitive information or some unnecessary files are getting copied inside my or unnecessarily copying inside my
Images.
images. Okay, then those all formats we need to specify in which file?
Docker ignore.
The Docker ignore file. In the Docker ignore file, if we keep where we have the Docker file, unnecessary files or log files or maybe sensitive information, these all we are going to ignore it. If it's some dependencies, again, all those. So these all the some of the best practices we need to follow inside your Docker images. Okay, or inside the Docker file. Then what is the advantage we are going to get is the size of the Docker file is going to be reduced. The size of the Docker file is going to be reduced. Okay, so in the Docker Compose tutorial, what are the different tutorials are there? Try to finish all those tutorials. And try to compose all those, try to run it. Okay, and go through those Kubernetes related videos. Also go through one assignment, Docker Swarm versus Kubernetes. So what are the differences between Docker Swarm versus Kubernetes. Okay, so both are, what is the similarity between them is both are the container orchestration tools. People will ask you, already we have a Docker Swarm is there, right? Why we need to go for Kubernetes? So why we need to go for Kubernetes? We need to explain. Okay. Try to finish all those Docker again once again, revise, and Dockerfile, multi-stage Dockerfile, pushing them, scanning them. In the real time also, we are going to use Compose, Swarm, Stack, services, all these volume, network, everything will manage from Kubernetes only. Okay.